was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and he came up with a very interesting idea that I want to share with you, just like a little bit of a thought experiment. He found a way to defend the existence of the DPRK based on right-wing libertarianism, like, Ayn Rand, Mises Institute, all that. So I thought that was pretty interesting how he could do that. Here was his argument. At the core of all right-wing libertarianism is property rights. Property rights are absolutely everything, from the non-aggression principle to basically what's right and what's wrong, what's moral or immoral, is absolutely based on the ownership of property. And libertarians are not opposed to a collective ownership if those people consent to doing so. If a bunch of people want to collectively own something, they have the right to do so under the libertarian principle. Now let's say you have a collective ownership of something like the DPRK, and say you have a bureaucratic body for that, like a government. The DPRK has a right to their property. The United States has no right to limit their ability to trade. It has no right to tell them that they're not allowed to exist, etc. Which, of course, libertarians would respond by saying that the state is a use of force. I would say, in this case, no, it's not. Was it not the collective effort of the Korean people, under the leadership of the party, who removed the Japanese from the peninsula who were committing the act of aggression? They were violating the NAP. So as there was a collective effort to remove the Japanese imperialism from their property, being the country, they now collectively own it. And since the core of libertarianism is property ownership, don't they have a right to do with that property as they want? Even if these libertarians don't like it, or even if the US imperialism doesn't like it? Essentially it is, because if you tell them they're not, or you tell them that they're not allowed to, or that this is wrong, you're essentially violating what people are allowed to do with their property. You're violating property rights, all of it based on property ownership. So what you see here is that property rights can be used to justify anything, all the way from mass killings of people in the third world through starvation to blocking people to have access to healthcare, etc. Anything can be justified if you reduce everything to property rights. You can even defend socialism the way that they construct it, a collective ownership of property. Why is that not a right? It is a right. They can do with their property collectively all they want. Now, this is the problem, is that this moralism over property ownership can only go so far. When you reduce everything to that, which is what libertarian is, you end up in this whole kind of mess of, well, if it's property ownership, and it's based on owning property, it's therefore not wrong. Thus, the DPRK has every right to exist, and every socialist state has a right to exist because they own property. It's a collective ownership of property, so therefore they have the right. Of course, libertarians would of course disagree with me, and they would have all kinds of arguments to counter that. But I do think in this case that since you reduce everything to property ownership, this actually is a solid argument for the DPRK to exist, even under libertarianism. Thank you for watching. Want to go ahead, rate, comment, subscribe, and share on various social media. And if you want, you can head over to my Patreon page and show your support. Or you can head over to the MRN bookstore and check out some of the latest books available.